Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest KRTY Zoominar, like we like to call it. I'm Gary Scott Thomas. The man with the other KRTY background is our general manager, Nate Deaton. And we are excited to have him broadcast from his home studio. Now, that's a home studio. If I that you're living my dream right now. That's what I wish I had. We have Chris DeStefano, and we've had Chris DeStefano out. We've had him so many times because we are such fans. Chris, how the heck are you?
Oh man, I'm doing great, Gary. Thanks so much, man. Thanks for having me on, and I hope y'all are doing well. Thanks. This is incredible to be a part of, and shoot, yeah, we actually just moved in this place in November, so I'm still kind of, I don't want to say working out any cobwebs in the studio because it's that happened pretty quick. But yeah, a guy named Mike Cronin built this room, and it's been a blast working out of it, and the creative juices have been flowing in here, and we've been writing a bunch, so it's all good. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on. Thank you.
How many people with home studios do you know? I mean, in Nashville, how ubiquitous is it? How often do you see? Would it be a better question? You know, somebody without a home studio?
I think that a lot of people have the ability to record to a degree. I think it's varying. I mean, depending on how kind of how deep you kind of dip your toes in the water, or if you jump all the way in. I've had, shoot, some of my favorite songs, favorite things I've ever been a part of. I did in a room that didn't have any treatment in it. That was just a bedroom converted into a recording studio. Back when I was just starting to have hits, and then all the way to the other end of the spectrum. Like I said, this is certainly fully flushed out. I think there are a lot of people that are able to kind of record vocals, record instruments, to a pretty basic extent. But I don't know how common it is. I mean, to be honest, just because I'm always working out of my own room, I don't really know how common it is for for people to have kind of this. I mean, again, I'm not trying to overhype it, but I'm spoiled here. Like, I love this room. I mean, I basically like 4 live rooms and a control room, and it's like it looks out to trees, and it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a pretty cool vibe here, and I'm just I'm so grateful to be here.
Is it attached to your house, or is it a separate building from your house?
Yeah, so it's actually in the basement, and we built the house, so it was kind of all planned, kind of a master plan. And I had my friend Mike Cronin come in here, and Mike is like, he built Zed's studio and Ryan Tedder's studio. He's working with Apple right now, doing a whole bunch of stuff with Apple. He did Universal, he did Blackbird here in Nashville, built Blackbird. So he's really experienced, great designer. He can kind of come in from a very scientific, state of mind, and just look at it and just go, okay, this is what we need to do, and just get it right.
What do they call that main room of Blackbird with all the different wood in that?
Oh yeah, Studio B there is, it's amazing. Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, I've worked there so many times.
All the little there's wood panels. I don't even know how to describe it other than it looks like grass. And it's all different lengths, and it does the diffusing of the sound in the studio, and it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a crazy room, but you're right. It's like, yeah, it looks surreal. You're like, gosh, this almost doesn't make sense, and it sounds amazing. It's
Now, Chris has a state-of-the-art studio. How do you get a state-of-the-art studio, kids? Have you ever asked yourself that question? Well, maybe you need to write Nothing Like You. Maybe you need to losing sleep from Chris Young, or Kiss Somebody from Morgan Evans, or Kick the Dust Up from Luke Bryan, or Hey Girl from Billy Carrington, or Good Girl, or Little Toy Guns, or Eyes on You. That's just some. We haven't got to all of them, but that's the kind of resume you need to have a studio like that. Just saying.
Oh man, Gary, shoot. I mean, what do I say about all that? It's crazy. Yeah, we have a blast here, right? Writing songs has been a passion of mine since I was about, 7 or 8 years old. But it took obviously decades for me to have any success. But I've been very blessed to write with some amazing writers, amazing artists, and literally, like, I come down here and I'm able to work in this space, and I'm literally grateful, and I thank God that I'm able to be creative in a place that is very special to me. And again, we have a 3-year-old daughter. We have a son on the way. We got a son coming in November. So just to, to be kind of around them and be able to be home and like I look out the window, I'll see my daughter out, my wife out by the pool and our little dog, and they're just hanging out. And so it's pretty special to kind of to still be surrounded by family at the same time we're being creative. I was writing with two of my best friends today, Brett James and Tim Nichols. And we had the studio door open and my daughter just came wandering down and she walked in and just like, she had her little, she had a dance recital today. So she had a little unicorn that she got from the dance recital. And she was coming in showing us the unicorn and she was all excited, but it was just like the sweetest thing. And I'm like that's such a blessing to be able to be kind of in that situation where I'm surrounded by family and yet to still be with my best buddies writing songs. And it was just, it was just, again, I think grateful is the best word for it. So
you got Brett off the golf course long enough to write a song?
Yeah, right.
Now, Chris,
exactly.
Chris is
we're actually getting back in tomorrow too, so it's like a double shot.
Did you do a lot remotely during the beginning of the coronavirus, or have you done most everything in person?
No, we did it pretty much. I mean, right from the get go was like, okay, Zoom writes, and those are like, that's something that historically like people would talk about a lot, like, hey, let's just do I think Skype was probably the thing for the last however long, hey, let's do a Skype write, let's get, and it just would never happen. Or if it did happen, it was just it didn't connect for some reason. Historically, like, oh, let's finish it via Skype. Like if I was writing with somebody from LA or London or whatever, oh, let's just finish it via Skype. And it just like would never quite connect. So I was a little skeptical of the Zoom thing from the beginning, but I'll be totally honest. It was like from the very beginning, from the first Zoom write, I think just the way that it works and the how quickly it can kind of bounce from one person to another. And it was like really effortless and very seamless. And I have a way on my, my computer to be able to connect like if I'm working on a track, a lot of times I'll be, I'm kind of whatever the instrumental guy as well. As we're writing the song, I'll be kind of building a track up, and I have this way of basically sending the track to my other writers live, so they can listen like in headphones, or if they have a studio, they can basically crank it up on speakers in full quality, like they're listening to it on, on Apple Music or what have you. They can kind of get full quality, and it's kind of inspiring too. I mean, I feel like there is a level of inspiration that happens when you're hearing, music impact you, that all of a sudden you might make little changes melodically, or you might do something that you wouldn't typically do with just an acoustic guitar. It just kind of inspires certain little things. So it's good. I mean, that kind of immediately became a workflow where my, co-writers would be like, yeah, this is awesome. Now, the only thing that was challenging is if I was writing with an artist, grabbing, like basically recording a vocal on them. Sometimes they just have to kind of record it into their phone, which I have ways of kind of making that sound pretty legit as well. Believe it or not, the iPhone actually doesn't sound horrible. It sounds bad, but it's not horrible, and it's workable as far as just the mic quality. But I personally, I kind of love, like if I had, situations where I had to do some Zoom writes, I'd be 100% fine with it. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to see people, fun to see your friends. I mean, obviously it's always better in the room, but I know some people can't stand it.
He wouldn't say this about himself, but I'll say it. Most of what he's going to do today and the songs he's going to do, you're going to go, dude, I actually like that better than the guy who cut it. So, I mean, he's being a little modest, but his vocal is better than most of his artists. So,
well, Chris is going to show us how the studio works. He's going to show some of the things about that, which is awesome. But let's get to his voice. Chris, are you ready to sing a song for us?
Sure, let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, I got this kind of set up here. Give me a little. All right. What should we kick it off with? Let's do some of this. We've been to both Carolinas, seen a big Montana sky, driven up an Anaheim coast a few times. London, Paris, paradise. But ain't got much memory of a scene. Come to think, I miss them all. Then, girl, it's all your fault. No matter where we go, no matter what we do, if you're there, girl, I've got my eyes on you. Don't matter where we've been, no, there ain't no better view than you in my arms with my eyes on you, with my eyes on you, my eyes on you. Speaking of the coast, remember 5 for beach, you and me, that sunset cliffs by the sea in the night. You still talk about that moment, I can't recall, but God, I saw all I needed to. Might as well have stayed in the room, no matter where we go, no matter what we do. If you're there, girl, I've got my eyes on you. Don't matter where we've been, no, there ain't no better view than you in my arms with my eyes on you, with my eyes on you, my eyes on you. Don't you remember Times Square? People count down everywhere, 2,000 whatever, no, I didn't care. Till you were there. Couldn't help but stare, no matter where we go, no matter what we do. If you're there, girl, I've got my eyes on you. No matter where we've been, no, there ain't no better view than you in my arms with my eyes on you. I've been around the world for a local corner booth. Yeah, you guessed it, girl, you know I got my eyes on you. We could be down in the street, any party, any room. I'll be there all night with my eyes on you. Don't matter where we've been, no, there ain't no better view than you in my arms with my eyes on you.
Chris DeStefano with a little Chase Rice music. Always want to write a good song for Chase because he could tackle you, and that's just not good for anybody. You know, played linebacker at North Carolina. He could.
Yeah, right. That is true, actually.
He could mess you up. That's what I told him last time I talked to him. I'm like, dude, that's all I think about when I'm in the same room with you. Please don't let him tackle me. I don't want that to happen.
But here's the thing: Chris is a hockey player, so he's actually more dangerous than Chase is.
Oh yeah, right. No,
hockey players are nicer. They get all their aggression out. You know, that's what I found. The more violent the sport is, the nicer the person is. You know,
you're absolutely right. Actually, hockey players leave it on the ice. It's so funny. It can be. Yeah, it's a switch. It's a switch. I'd say I'm not going to talk on this. You can clear the reverb the whole time. Yeah, it's a switch for sure. I mean, they turn it on the ice and it's off. You get off the ice and it's like the nicest guys on the planet. But yeah, I mean, Chase certainly one of the nicest guys on the planet. I love Chase. He's like a brother. Yeah, that was a real special one. I know we've been working together for many years now, and we've had a couple really close calls, but as far as number ones ringing the bell, what have you, but that one did ring the bell, and it was a big moment for Chase, and I was very excited.
Garnered him his hot sauce bottle back from the rodeo club.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. That's right. Yes.
Hey, dude, I'm a big fan of Ready, Set, Roll. I love Ready, Set, Roll. Oh, yeah, come
on. That's the first one.
Yeah, I was all over that. I thought that was great. Can I ask you something? Because you're in your studio and you've got a phalanx of guitars and a banjo and stuff. What goes into the purchase of a guitar? What makes you pick one? What makes you decide you need one?
That's a great question. Golly. I mean, it's kind of like I don't know. It's just, it kind of talks to me. Like when I'll pick up a guitar that I know that sounds kind of cliche, but it's really true. It just, I feel like a great guitar, and it could be a brand new guitar. It doesn't even need to be some vintage guitar. I feel like some guitars just kind of have a story to tell. I mean, they just connect. This guitar, I mean, particularly exactly that. It's like I picked this up I don't know if y'all been to Two Old Hippies down in the Gulch, but here in Nashville. But it's basically it's a clothing store, and they got some other things too. They got they got some books and some jewelry and stuff. But it's all like, it's very kind of cool, very mom and pop kind of place. But they have a guitar shop in the back of the clothing store, and I mean, I probably have, I don't know, 50 guitars. I have a ton of guitars. I got all kinds of, acoustics and stuff. But I went to the back of into their little guitar shop, and I saw this guitar, and I was like, ooh, look at that, a little parlor, like that thing just kind of was like talking to me again, just up there on the wall. And this is a Breedlove, but I picked it up and I just started playing it, and it was like, it just felt like, I don't know, it felt like it was 4 times the size that it actually is. And that, just immediately it was like, okay, just the way it played and everything. Sonically, oh, thank you. I mean, sonically, there are so many different kinds of instruments. I mean, like the Les Pauls and the Telecasters and Strats. And I mean, there's a lot of really, really nice electrics as well. And even with those too, it's sometimes you just pick one up and you just go, ooh, okay, I can't say no to this. And I mean, growing up, I had to say no to everything. So now
write that line, Chris. Chris,
what's that?
You need to write that line. This guitar has a story to tell.
Oh yeah, come on.
You need to write that line. That there's something there to that.
I mean, you could almost go like, this house has a story to tell, this guitar has a story to tell, this this ring has a story to tell. You could go all
story to tell. I mean, there you go. There's the first, second, and there's the first verse, second verse, and bridge right there.
Wow. Did y'all just see this happen? Remember, I came up with the hard part. Now you go ahead and do the rest. When you're writing a song, I have to ask you, when you're writing a song, and I don't know, when you wrote, I think in Carrie Underwood's long career, when it's all said and done, when she gets to the point where she's looking back on her career, I think Something in the Water will be a seminal song for her. I think that'll be the song that stands out. You'll have a handful of songs that go, this is Carrie Underwood. And Something in the Water was just brilliant. I mean, it's a brilliant song, and the performance. When you wrote that, there's only 3 or 4 people that you would even think about writing those notes for. How did that process go?
Well, first of all, I mean, thank you for saying that. I've been a Carrie fan forever, since I first heard her sing on Idol. It was like, this girl's unbelievably talented, and she's every bit as talented as of a writer as she is of a singer. I mean, it's incredible. That particular day was a very special one. I mean, we got together. It was, I remember I woke up pretty early. I'm usually up at 5:30 or whatever. I was up kind of preparing ideas. I always like to go in like with some musical ideas, because she's always got all kinds of, lyrical and cool, like just amazing melodic ideas, lyrical ideas that she would like to write about. That was, certainly God was in the room the day we wrote that. That's all I can say. I mean, it was me and Carrie, and again, my good friend, Brett James. I pulled up in my dad's 2010 Ford Taurus that I bought from him. And Brett pulls up right behind me on his Harley Davidson with his guitar strapped to his back. And it was like, oh, okay. All right. It's going to be one of those. I like this. I like how this day's starting already. And we actually wrote it at Carrie's cabin. And Carrie, I started playing this. Another thing we do, I mean, you guys, I'm sure you've heard this story, but another thing we do in Nashville is we apologize for ideas before we bring them. So it's like, oh gosh, this probably isn't anything, it's probably terrible, but check this out. I mean, this is, and I kind of apologize. You guys are going to love this or hate it, and I basically have the whole track that you hear, essentially. I mean, drums, guitars, keyboards, strings, like the whole deal that you hear on the record, but without any vocal, without any melody, no lyrics, nothing. And Carrie like immediately was like, oh my gosh, I love this. I have this idea that I've been wanting to write. And you know, it's a very, very close to me, and it's very, it's a very, yeah, it's a very faith driven song. And when she said the title, and then how she wanted to twist the title, it was like, oh, that's special. That's so special. I mean, because, I mean, obviously Something in the Water has been written quite a few times. I mean, that title is, you know, it's been written a lot, but I feel like that's kind of one of the things about being a great songwriter, is taking something that you've heard before and making it something you've never heard before. And that I hadn't, you know, that angle I've never heard before. And it was a magical day. You know, KRTY, we wrote it wrote it pretty quick. And I'll never forget, we recorded it, and then I was playing it back. We had it cranking. I mean, it was like super loud at the cabin, and cranking it up, and all of a sudden KRTY started singing Amazing Grace over the end there. It was just like, we got to do that. That's just perfect. That sounds unbelievable. And so yeah, and then Brett and I left. We actually, you know, we said goodbye to KRTY, and then we went to Puckett's for a little celebration. Like, that just felt really like a super special day. And we were kind of like, what just happened? You know, but thank you. I mean, you know, I'm such a fan of KRTY's. Like I said, I mean, she's got so many unbelievable songs. I mean, you could take so many of those songs, and they're just career songs for anybody. I mean, obviously, Jesus Take the Wheel, you know, Before He Cheats. I mean, those songs are like, they are timeless, absolutely unbelievable songs. And so, yes, I know that song is very special to KRTY as well. I know she still, you know, obviously always performs it. And again, you know, here's the other thing about being a songwriter. You see as the success of a song happens, how it impacts people in their everyday life, and how people get inspired, and it changes people's lives. And that was like one of the I mean, even bigger than the hit, you know, the hit of the song that it was like that, you know, to see how like kids would be doing, you know, choreographies to it, or they would be doing, you know, choirs to it in their schools. And it was just like this really like magical thing to watch kind of unfold. And you know, that is a songwriter, definitely the most humbling thing, but it's certainly, I mean, absolutely rewarding in every sense.
I'm telling you, we're here in Silicon Valley, the home of Netflix, right? We need to go to Netflix and pitch this show, half-hour serial show about songwriting stories like that. Because I think every songwriter has a story like that, where again, you could pull up in a Ford Taurus with a guy on a motorcycle, and you're at Carrie Underwood's cabin, and you have this musical track all set to go that you've played all of the instruments on, and then she goes, "I have the words for that," and I know you have even more stories like that. You could literally do a half-hour anthology show, and bring stars in to do it. I think it'd be fascinating.
That would be, I mean, that'd be a heck of a lot of fun. I mean, that would be, you know, it's obviously super special to us to be able to, you know, to have a platform to talk about.
Hey, Reed, call me, Reed, over at Netflix.
And that really kind of goes to the, the whole point of how successful our Songwriter series has been, for exactly that reason. And how, you know, we're so disappointed that we haven't been able to do it yet this year. And the winter one was great, and you've been a big part of it. And his date for the fall is the first weekend in September, which we have not postponed yet. And with any luck at all in the county of Santa Clara, we can at least do some version of it. So we're all holding out hope for that. Do you want to do Something in the Water? I know you've done it before.
Sure.
I want to do something different.
I'd love to.
Diggity dog.
Because again, it's not. It is KRTY Underwood, but his version is pretty awesome. And then I want. And then I have a very specific question that I want to ask you when we get done with that.
Cool. He said, I've been where you've been before. Down every hallway's a slamming door. No way out, no one to come and save. Way some life that the good Lord gave. Then somebody said what I'm saying to you. Opened my eyes and told me the truth. They said just a little faith, it'll all get better. So we'll follow that preacher man down to the river, and now I'm changed. Now I'm stronger. Oh, there must have been something in the water. Oh, there must have been something in the water. Well, I heard what he said and I went on my way. Didn't think about it for a couple of days. Then it hit me like lightning. Late one night, I was all out of hope and all out of fight. Couldn't fight back the tears, so I fell on my knees, saying, God, if you're there, come and rescue me. Felt love pouring down from above. Got washed in the water, washed in the blood, and now I'm changed. Now I'm stronger. Oh, there must be something in the water. Oh, there must be something in the water. Now I'm singing along to Amazing Grace. Can't nobody wipe this smile off my face. Got joy in my heart, angels on my side. Thank God Almighty, I saw the light. Gonna look good, there's no turning back. Live every day, giving all that I have. Trust in someone bigger than me. Ever since the day that I believed I am changed. Now I'm stronger. Oh, there must be something in the water. Oh, there must be something in the water. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved all wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, oh, now I see.
That's awesome.
In case you didn't realize this, Chris DeStefano can sing, y'all.
Oh, cheers, y'all. Cheers,
Newsflash, this guy can bring it. You know,
cheers,
just to have the courage to sing, even if you wrote it, something in the water, live and in public, and then just kick it.
Oh, cheers, guys. I appreciate that.
So my follow-up question is, have you written with Gabby Barrett yet?
Not yet. I'm counting the days. I think we got something coming up. I think if not, we definitely need to get. I'm such a fan. She is so good. And yeah, I mean, I hope. Come on, that's incredible.
And if I remember,
and John Knight's one of my favorite human beings on the planet. I'm just so happy for all that success. It's just like, again, we root for our friends, and that's one that's no accident. That's awesome.
Well, I know that we talked about when you were here in January because John had just started doing. I hope at that point he was just started playing it out. That I think that was
right.
What the first couple of weekends they did it, but anyway, she's just and then the one after the next one after that, shit, I'll think of it in a minute. The good ones. That's it.
Yeah.
She wrote that too, and she's just we did one of these with John and Zach, and she popped in and they were talking about but she's just especially for how young she is, she's just an amazing writer. And I think, you know, the whole American Idol, and that's in the KRTY tie-in, and what a great writer KRTY is too, is an interesting concept. It's an interesting
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm a fan. I mean, I hope that happens soon. I'm a big fan, and yeah, that's like one of those. I'm like, gosh, I'd love to sing that. You know, like I want to sing that live. Like, you know, it'd be great. I know. Obviously, having done a zillion rounds with John, you know, all over the place, and I love, you know, again, he's one of my best friends. Even just playing along to it is like, yes, like gosh, that song just digs deep. That's real. That's real, you know, real stuff right there. That's no accident.
You're able to write for great voices, and after hearing you sing, that it makes total sense. Dan and Shay, I mean, how much fun is it to sit back and go, well, there's no note Shay can't hit.
Right.
So we're, you know, and I think from the ground up, even though it was a big old hit, I still think it's underrated. It's
Oh,
such
wow.
an amazing song.
Thank you so much. Well, yeah, that song, I mean, again, that was, we hadn't even planned on writing a song the day we wrote that. We kind of, you know, we were actually recording another song, which did not get cut, but we, you know, again, it was like one of those situations. We just started talking about family and stuff, and started talking about our grandparents and just about, you know, just all that, just the things that meant a lot to us. And we kind of had this vision of what we wanted to write. And, you know, again, that's one of those songs that just over the course of time, it's just taken a different meaning to me. You know, it's, you know, I never like, I think at the time we wrote that, it was certainly right after I met my wife. You know, I was certainly in that zone, but I never imagined I'd be having a little girl, and at some point we'd be building a house where we were painting a room pink. You know, so it's just kind of like fast forward, however, you know, a few years, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, this song just means so. It's taken such a future meaning to me as opposed to a historical meaning to me. And you know, and obviously Dan and Shay, I mean, they got families now, and it's awesome to watch them just, you know, just winning at all aspects of life. I know Shay and I talk about it all the time. And, you know, obviously with little Asher, and, you know, I mean, when Asher was born right around the same time that our daughter was born. So we talked about that for a long time. So it's just, again, like those family moments, again, songs are, I feel like in so many ways, it's a story, but it becomes our story. Not every song is a personal story, but that has kind of become a very personal story, and over the course of my life. And I'd love to play that. I mean, if you guys want to hear it,
I'd love to. Did the song come? Did the words come first, or did you have the idea of the melody first on that one?
That was kind of one where the lyric kind of happened when we were like just kind of singing melodies, and I can't remember who said the lyric, but it just kind of, again, it was kind of one of those that just kind of wrote itself a bit. I mean, it was an easy, I mean, I think we wrote the song in maybe 45 minutes or something. It was one of those that just kind of, yep, it happened real quick. But to your point, Gary, again, I mean, Shay can sing anything, and what this one was one where there's kind of one moment where he really goes off vocally, but it's a pretty like kind of right in the middle as far as range goes song. I mean, again, it's just kind of the point that he can kind of sing in any range, and it just sounds great. He's just got a great tone. He just kind of does it all. But
at a drop of a hat too.
Yeah.
He's amazing like that.
No, I love those guys. I absolutely love those guys. I know I was down in Australia with Morgan Evans doing a tour, and I was supporting Morgan on tour, and Dan and Shay had gotten down there just as we were about wheels up back for the U.S. back stateside, and they reached out and they were like, "Dude, are you in Australia? We saw you're in Australia. Are you still here? Are we going to see each other?" And I was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna just literally." We were crossing. I think they were going to Perth from Sydney, and we were flying to Sydney to go back. So it was like literally we were passing them in the air on the same day, and I was like, "Oh," like waving to them out the window of the plane, you know. But awesome dudes. Again, I love watching them win. So, all right, well, let's.
I have a from the very beginning, back in the before, I don't think he'd be mad at me if I told this story, but there was a text message. He sent me a text one time right before the first single came out, and they were going to a writing appointment, and Shay said, "Hey, can you pick me up because I don't have enough money for gas?"
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And it's like, you know, sometimes when it all happens, you kind of forget about that. But I
don't think those guys forget about that. I mean, I think, again, I don't think any of us. Yeah, no, that's true. Right. I know what you're saying. Yeah, that's true. It's certainly a gosh. I mean, to be able to.
But you see them at the top of their game. You don't see them at that hard scrabble. Everybody likes this. It's the old overnight success story where they step back and like you're sitting in that studio. But let's just 10 years ago, you were in an old Ford Taurus.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, and I mean, I remember I was 3 months almost evicted from my apartment. I mean, it was like. Yeah, it got tough, and I was never the type to ask my parents for any money. Like I just felt like I always had to kind of carry my own weight, and I feel like that builds character and all that stuff. But certainly, yeah, it's you think about all that and constantly reminded of like, okay, and we talk about it. I mean, in the writing room, we talk about it. This is not something that just goes. Like, oh yeah, of course. Like, yeah, of course we have success. No, it's like we still to this day talk about it. I mean, I had Ashley Gorley and Kelly Lovelace over here the other day, and we're just like, gosh, like I can't believe that we're able to do this. I know it's a little bit of a double-edged sword talking about it to everybody else, but I do want people to know that we are absolutely grateful. And it's really, I mean, it's country music fans. It's y'all. I mean, it's radio. It's y'all supporting our songs and I mean, that really is the game changer for us. I mean, it's like something that I've done my whole life doing, and to be able to buy my mom a condo because of it is like, that was an amazing moment. Like, oh, she struggled paying rent for a long time, and we never had a lot of money. I mean, we had the heat shut off growing up. I mean, it was like, we struggled, and to be able to do that for just like things like that, where you're just like, oh yes, like thank you God, this is unbelievable.
That's so much fun. Well, hey, let's hear it from the ground up.
Grandma and Grandpa painted a picture of 65 years. One little house, more than a memory, more than saying I do. Kiss you good nights, and I love yous. Me and you, baby, walking the footsteps. We'll build our own family, one day at a time. 10 little toes, painted pink room. Beautiful baby looks just like you, and we'll build this love from the ground up. Now till forever, it's all of me, all of you. Just take my hand, and I'll be the man your dad hoped that I'd be, and we'll build this love from the ground up. Worse off for better, yeah, I will be all you need. Beside you, I'll stand. Through the good and the bad, we'll give all that we have, and we'll build this love from the ground up. This life will go by in the blink of an eye, but I wouldn't want to spend it without you by my side. Clouds are gonna roll, earth's gonna shake, and I'll be a shelter through the wind and the rain. We'll build this love from the ground up, down till forever. It's all of me, all of you. Just take my hand, and I'll be the man your dad hoped that I'd be, and we'll build this love from the ground up. World worse or for better. Yeah, I will be all you need. Beside you, I'll stand through the good and the bad. We'll keep all that we have, and we'll build this love from the ground up. Someday we'll wake up with thousands of pictures of 65 years. This little house won't trade for nothing. This life that we built. I'll kiss you good night and say I love you still, and we'll build this love from the ground up. Now till forever, it's all of me, all of you. Just take my hand, and I'll be the man your dad. All that I did, we'll build this love from the ground up. For worse or for better, yeah, I will be all you need. Beside you, I'll stand through the good and the bad. We'll keep all that we have, and we'll build this love from the ground up.
So you have a daughter, and when she gets married and they play that song, and your new son-in-law looks at you and goes, I'm going to be that man you hope I'm going to be. You realize
come on. I hadn't even thought about that. That's unbelievable. I had literally not even thought about that moment until you just mentioned it right now. I promise. That's unbelievable. Yeah, that could very well happen.
You are going
I still I'll literally still I mean, I know it's not whatever. It might sound cheesy or cliche or whatever, but still get even just singing it choked up. I start thinking about the lyrics, and I just start thinking about my daughter, and I mean, you can't help it. It's just gosh, please,
Yeah, when that
vividly
wants to meet that guy, I hope he's that guy.
Oh,
He sits back and tells you, Mr. DeStefano, I'm going to be the man you hope I'm going to be.
oh, come on.
Well, and if he doesn't, shame on him. He's not.
Yeah.
yeah.
She needs to know that. When she gets older, tell her to call me, and I'll tell her, here's the guy you're looking for. I'll tell you.
I will. We were talking about new artists and things like that, and it's one of the special things that we've been able to do over the years is really get invested with new artists, and same with Dan and Shay, and we're lucky enough to get a lot of songs, maybe before they're released. And I will never forget when Dan Schmeier sent me that, and I called him up, and I'm all, dude, I mean, it's just one of those songs that's one of those songs. I mean, you know what I mean when I say it's one of those songs. It was just so much better than anything else around it that it was just a special day. So.
Oh man, thanks for saying that. Yeah, shoot.
Now that brings me to my thing, because I was going to ask you this. You know who's underrated? I'll sit back and say some things that are underrated. I'll get your thoughts on it. I think Dan is underrated. I think his ability to sing harmonies is astounding. And I tell you another voice. I don't think he's regarded as a good voice. I think he's underrated. Chris Young. I think Chris Young is underrated as a singer. I think he's fantastic.
I think you've nailed two. Absolutely. I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, Dan, obviously his singing, playing, his showmanship, his energy. I mean, he is such an equal part of Dan and Shay. That's absolutely obvious. But I mean, obviously his creative sense in the studio is incredible. And, the first hit we had together, Nothing Like You, now looking back, I'm like, gosh, I was honored to have produced that song, but Dan's gone on to me. He produces everything of theirs now, with Scott Hendricks. But Dan just has not just a writing sensibility as well, but he's got this studio sensibility to him that is just incredible. I mean, you know, he hears everything. He is like the definition of minutia. I mean, like every little thing about a record, like I love it. I mean, that's how you got to be. Like you got to listen to everything and be just super critical to get it to that level of perfection. And you know, him and Hendrix produced from the ground up, and it, you know, again, you know, I love the production. It blew me away when I first heard it. I was, you know, it was like, oh, please, I can't wait till people hear this. You know, it was certainly a special, very magical, special production. Which that's, you know, that does happen. You know, you like when that happens. It doesn't happen all the time. I'll just say that. And for that song and for it to be presented that way, it was just magic. And that was, I mean, Dan Smyers certainly just crushed that. Certainly grateful to Dan.
So you also have obviously a background, but a foreground too, for that matter, in production, and that's some of the magical things you do there in the studio. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I mean,
show us some of your toys.
Yeah, right. You know, I keep it pretty slim here. I mean, I've worked in a lot of studios. I feel like I've kind of figured out the things that I really use a lot, and then kind of ways of, you know, kind of streamlining it. You know, I use a software called Ableton. I was on a software called Pro Tools for a long time, and it's incredible as well. It's a great tool. I know a lot of, you know, it's kind of the studio standard. Ableton just kind of became, I think I just needed something. I just needed a change up. I think it's healthy just sometimes to change things up, gets you out of your comfort zone a little bit. And I actually switched over to Ableton. I know I'm geeking out a little bit here. I'll try to keep this short. But I was at a writing retreat in France, an ASCAP writing retreat in France that we do every year. And usually they'll pick a few people from London. There's usually some people from LA. There's some people from Nashville, usually some people from New York sometimes. And I mean, historically, like everybody from Ellie Goulding to, I mean, Bon Jovi's been there to, you know, Adam Lambert, Mike Posner. I mean, there's been some really like awesome artists there in the past. I know I'm picking a few here. I'm definitely leaving a whole bunch out, but in the middle of this writing camp, I decided to switch to Ableton. I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. It's like jumping out of a plane with no parachute. And I'll never forget the next day I was writing with a superstar artist. And it was like one of those days that it was awesome. Like we had a blast. I wrote with Jason Mraz and another incredible writer. But it was a fun ride. I just kind of jumped ship. I was like, I'm never looking back. And Ableton's kind of one of those things. It's a whole different. Anyway, I don't know. But for any of you all watching that get into that stuff, it's real fun. I mean, it's a whole different thing. But yeah, so this Ableton. So this is actually the mix. So I mixed this song as well. So you get a little bit of like vibe here. I mean, I don't think I'm breaking any laws by playing this right now.
If it's Friday, you know I'll be kicking back with the boys down to Santa's pub. Don't hesitate.
So yeah, I can go in and, you know,
think about waiting. I'll just type it up. Yeah, I'm ready.
So, you know, you kind of can break it all down, all the different instruments and all that we, you know. So this we kind of, again, this was like a hybrid of a lot of stuff that I had kind of played, pre-programmed, kind of pre-arranged, what have you. Chase, you know, try to keep it again, like a lot of artistic merit there where, you know, Chase played the acoustic. I wanted that to be kind of like the real deal. You know, he loves playing, he loves singing. I was like, shoot, let him play the acoustic. I mean, it's, you know, there's obviously incredible musicians in town. We could get people to play, you know, or I could play whatever. But that was something that I wanted it to be real to Chase, and I know it was important to Chase as well because he's the one playing it. So you know, he nailed the part. I thought it came out great. And then, you know, and all kinds of different. We did like a talk track here, which, you know, here. So things you like don't always hear on the record. You're like, I don't remember hearing that, but you know,
It could be middle of the week or the weekend, baby. It ain't too late.
Some 808s and some subs and stuff. So that's kind of that, that world. A guy named Miles McPherson played drums on this, which, Miles is absolutely one of the greatest drummers, not just performance, but his sounds and everything that he gets are incredible. Just dirty kind of in your face. Again, we kind of went for that a little bit, like kind of those 70s, kind of almost like, I don't know, Steely Danish, kind of in your face, dry, kind of drums, not too roomy. And yeah, I mean, that's just one example of, again, it's part of the creative process. And again, I feel like the production part of it should be, for me anyway, it's very transparent. I look at production like, let's just serve the song. Like, it's almost looking for all the things that aren't right with something, because it could be like, okay, if you're adding too much, like knowing when you're adding too much, or always keeping it like, hey, let's keep stripping it back. Like, let's not have too much going on. And I'm certainly guilty of that. I mean, I'm not saying that I've nailed it every time, but I always try to like, all right, like have that objectivity of like being able to kind of balance, like a good production is something that you can strip way back, and still hear all these little parts, and like it kind of be, stays interesting, and keeps the energy going. But it's something I really enjoy. But yeah, it's certainly hand in hand with writing for me, just because I'm so hands on this stuff all the time. But the writing aspect too is very much a, again, just it's something I absolutely love doing, and
you're the perfect person. I want to ask this question to you because you're the perfect person to ask it, because you're so involved in everything, every bit of the production. When you have a song, say Lonely Where You Are, pick a song, Kick the Dust Up. When you bring the musicians in, it's a lot of times you're the musician. Is there a chart? I mean, is there a musical chart for the drummer? Or do you just go, listen, this is the rhythm, you're a professional, give me what you got?
Yes. Well, yes, certainly. Yeah. Well, I'll do a chart. It's one chart essentially for everybody. And all it really does is like, okay, I'll say, here's the tempo, and, and there's always whatever they call it. We call pre-production. A lot of times it's production. It's pre-production before. It's kind of like pre-boarding. I mean, you're getting on the plane, you know what I mean? It's like, it's the same thing, but like, so essentially they're hearing what the record is going to feel like. A lot of the ideas are there. They're just they're going to make it sound better. They're going to make it sound, they're going to bring their artistry to it. It's going to really color it up in a cool way, in a feel sense. But certainly there are parts to the production that are getting muted in the moment, where, if we're recording Miles, obviously on drums, I'll mute my drum track. And as far as making those choices, I look for like how much, where's the magic not happening? Like what is missing the magic right now? And so I'll take those parts and go, let's just strip that, but let's get Ilya to play that acoustic or that dobro part, or let's get, Tony Lucido to, replay bass on it. And it happens about 50-50 sometimes, give or take. Sometimes, we capture the magic here, and artist and label and everybody are like, we're stoked on this. We don't even have to do a thing. Actually, I think the next Chris Young single will be very much that. It was recorded during COVID. Chris came over, he's been isolating. We were like, all right, this is the song. Here's the song. Here's the demo. Let's dig in. Chris and I worked on it together, and I mixed it out the door, sent it to mastering. Any tweaks Chris had, he told me, made some tweaks, and everything was done here. It was all in house. So
that's awesome.
It's kind of,
I knew you'd be the perfect person to ask. I knew you would. Because usually when I ask that question, a lot of guys are like, oh, well, I don't, but you were able to go, no, we do this, and we hand it to them. And if their artistry takes over, but if the artistry doesn't take over, I got this. You're the Paul McCartney of a lot of songs. I mean, that's what Paul McCartney did, right? Can we find somebody? Otherwise, I'll play it.
Yeah, I mean, again, objectivity is it's super important. Just remaining objective. I'll never forget. I read an interview with the late great Mike Shipley if you're familiar with Mike. He was Mutt Lange's engineer and mixer for a long time. Almost, I mean, I think almost everything. I mean, I believe that he engineered and mixed a lot of those, the Billy Ocean stuff all the way back from the beginning, all the way through the AC/DC, and obviously Def Leppard, who is one of my favorite bands of all time. But Mike Shipley had said that Mutt Lange could kind of sit back and listen with the most critical ears on the planet, like super critical, very analytical, and then at the same time, like in an instant, he could disconnect and listen as if he's a 12-year-old kid, like hearing something for the first time. Which I feel like that's I know it sounds easier than it is to do. I mean, sometimes you get connected, connected to something, your brain starts telling you that it's right because because that's what you did. And then you're like, no, actually that's not right. We got to just make a little tweak here. Or sometimes, like, again, to your question, sometimes we'll go into the studio, we'll track with musicians, bring it back and go, let's keep the original, whatever, the original such instrument. I don't want to, whatever, name names, but sometimes it's just feeling right with the original instrument and not necessarily the new performance. Again, it's all about just objectivity and just how it feels. How does it feel?
Yeah, I literally just don't think there's anything I can't ask you that you wouldn't have an answer to.
Well,
I love the day that I don't know.
I don't know how good the answers are, but I'm going to be honest with you.
Here's what I love. I started my day with Ashley McBride drinking a White Claw in the morning, and I'm ending my day with Chris DeStefano drinking a White Claw in the afternoon.
Look at it. I don't know if it's backwards or not, but I got my Byron Bay. There it is right there. So Brett James and I and Morgan Evans jumped out of a plane in Byron Bay, Australia.
A perfectly good plane. A plane that was flying.
It was perfect. That's the first thing my dad said. I called him right after we landed. Literally, I was like, Dad, I just jumped out of a plane. He's like, well, what did you do that for? Was it on fire? His first response was, what did you do that for? Was the plane okay? Was that?
It was a perfectly good plane. There was no reason to jump other than you wanted to.
I understand Morgan Evans jumping out of a plane simply because Australia is designed to kill you. All right, so you have no fear of anything, right? But come on, Chris.
They have mosquitoes that can kill you.
They got spiders too, man. Woo.
Spiders, jellyfish, you name it, snakes. The
Irukandji jellyfish. Oh my gosh, you gotta watch out for those little box jellyfish. You can't even see them. They're like the size.
That's what I'm saying. And I've talked to him about that. I sit back and said, what is up with that? And he goes, well, they're in very specific areas, and you just stay away from those areas. I said, really? Yeah. And he goes, no, not really.
Not really. It's like, yeah, just stay away from those areas. It's one of my favorite places in the world. I know, I must say, like, I have some amazing memories. Obviously, the tour was amazing. I got to meet incredible people and tour all over the country, but also some other memories, some great memories. Gorley and I went down there probably 5 years ago now, and he's not a certified diver, but I've probably been on, I don't know, 400 dives in my life, and so I had to go diving in Great Barrier Reef, and that was certainly a memory as well. Like, just gosh, unbelievable, awesome times. But Australia definitely has a place in my heart. What's that?
You thrill seekers. I'll stick with tacos. Thank you.
I'm telling you this right now. I mean, I'll scuba dive certainly because I've done that so much, but I don't think I'll ever jump out of a plane again. I loved it. It was amazing.
But it was
but that was enough. And I'll tell you why. It wasn't the actual falling or the jump or even actually the moment of, like, whatever you call it, the moment of
no return.
That you jump out of the plane. It was like, it was the anticipation on the ground before you do it that just, it was not fun. I'm not going to lie. Brett James and I shared a condo. We rented a condo. And so I'm up at 3 a.m. This is the day of the jump. And I'm like nervous as heck. I'm researching all of these things on YouTube, like, oh gosh, like, how do you defeating nerves or, to jump out of a plane or whatever, like, all this stuff. And Brett comes in, it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. He knocks on my door. He's like, dude, I've heard, like, your phone going all night or whatever, videos going. I was like, dude, I don't know about this, man. This is a bad idea. But it was actually one of the most amazing things I've ever done in my life. It was, looking back, I'm so glad I did it. And it was like, not just because of the jump, because it was like, you know, I don't love flying. And it was kind of one of those like, hey, I, you know, conquered that fear. Anyway, it was a long, but, you know, short story long.
I like doing things that if I mess up, I don't die. That's
yeah,
what
no, I mean, 100%. I can't agree with you more.
Unfortunately, I think we're pretty much at we're not at our time limit, but we like to keep them around an hour, but we've done that. But that doesn't necessarily mean we have to stop. But I have two things real quick that I want to say, which is as I suspected, this was awesome. I knew it would be. I had no doubt about it. We may have to do a part 2.
I'm in.
I will reiterate that Chris, along with the aforementioned Ashley Gorley and Kelly Lovelace, is actually scheduled for September. I believe it's 3rd and 4th at Close. We have not rescheduled that yet. We're hoping that we can, in some manner, do some shows at Clo this fall. It may not be necessarily a full venue show that we have done in the past, but I know that Ashley and Chris and Kelly would love to come play, even if there's 400 of you. So don't give up on us. But we have to have a finishing song. So Jose says, what would you say is your biggest hit? And I don't think he's going to answer that question, but he's going to give you a roundabout answer. But I don't know. I don't know the answer to that either.
Gosh, I don't know what to be honest, I don't know what my biggest hit is, as far as, because they're all different. I mean, again, it's like, it's what's on paper sometimes isn't necessarily I will say this. I know what the biggest hit that I've had that wasn't necessarily a biggest hit at radio, which is interesting, because, you know, obviously radio is everything to songwriters. I mean, that's our whole livelihood, and that's where people hear songs. I mean, let's be real. But this song was, I mean, I could play this one. It's a fun one. And it's certainly a fun one. We wrote this song for the Super Bowl. I wrote this with KRTY and Brett James and Ludacris, aka Chris Bridges, aka Luda. And it's a pop song. I mean, it really is a pop song. Again, this kind of like speaks to KRTY's diversity and how she can just kind of do anything. And it's like, yes, you just sang the absolute heck out of that. That's unbelievable. But this song to me it is a very, very special song, in that we wrote this song for the Super Bowl, which was awesome. I mean, it was incredible to watch that. And then it became the theme for the Olympics. And then just watching it again, I know I kind of touched on this earlier, but watching how it just started to inspire people in their everyday lives. I mean, people that were, you know, whether it just be simple, like workout song that they're like, yes, this is like, you know, this is my jam, or it's something that somebody's going through something, you know, very like traumatic in their life that they need strength for, and they're using the song as inspiration, or as part of their inspiration. And all the way to, you know, I have some dear friends that are former special forces in the military, former Navy SEAL Team 6 Red Squadron, Dev Gru guys. And I mean, they're tip of the spear, and this is like always their first request, like, you know, can you play the song? And for me, that's like, you know, seeing how that's an inspiration to somebody like that, who I just have absolute total respect for, you know, heroes of our country. And so I always like to this is one I love to play. I love to dedicate this to the men and women of our armed forces and first responders in our country, because, you know, they're putting it all on the line, you know, and you know, I just have so much respect for them. And yeah, so they are, you know, when I think of champions, you know, they are champions to me. So yeah, I mean, if you guys want to hear this, I'm certainly happy to happy to rock it.
I had a feeling that's what you were going to say, so I kind of led you into that. So.
Okay, all right, no, all good, buddy. So this song again, this was kind of one of those where Kerry had the idea to, hey, let's write something for the Super Bowl, and Brett James and I were like, okay, that sounds like an awesome idea. Let's try that. Let's do that. So we wrote this song.
I'll be the last one standing, 2 hands in the air, I'm a champion. You'll be looking up at me when it's over. I'll live for the battle, I'm a soldier. Yeah, I'm a fighter like Rocky, bang on your back like Ali. Yeah, I'm the greatest, I'm stronger. Pay my dues, can't lose, I'ma own you. Yeah, been working my whole life, and now it's do or die. I am invincible, unbreakable, unstoppable, unshakable. They knock me down, I get up again. I am the champion, you gon' know my name. You can't hurt me now, I can't feel the pain. I was made for this, I was born to win. I am the champion. When they write my story, we gon' say that I did it for the glory, but don't think that I did it for the fame, yeah. I did it for the love of the game, yeah. This is my chance I'm taking, all them old records I'm breaking, all you people watching on the TV, yeah, go ahead and put your bets on me. Yeah, been waiting my whole life to see my name in lights. I am invincible, unbreakable, unstoppable, unshakable. They knock me down, I get up again. I am the champion, you gon' know my name. You can't help me now, I can't feel the pain. I was made for this, I was born to win. I am the champion. Whoa, whoa. Born champion. This is full of courage I possess through the trauma. The age is full of hurt, but it's all for the honor. The A is for my attitude, working through the patient. The money comes and goes to the M is for motivation. I gotta stay consistent, the P is to persevere. The I is for integrity, innovative career. The O is optimistic, open and never shut. And the N is necessary, cause I'm never giving up. See, they ask me how I did it, I just did it from the heart. Crushing the competition, doing it from the start. They say that every champion is all about his principles. But I am invincible, unbreakable, unstoppable, unshakable. They knock me down, I get up again. I am the champion, you don't know my name. You can't hurt me now, I can't feel the pain. I was made for this, I was born to win. I am the champion. Whoa, whoa, I am the champion. Whoa, whoa, I am the champion.
That was awesome.
Chris DeStefano. Well, and I agree. We have to do a part 2 on this. What an entertaining hour, and we knew it was going to be entertaining. Every time I've had him in studio, I've always been impressed.
I mean, we didn't even get the movie lines, so that's in part 2.
Yeah, come on.
We will do this again. It's there's so many
I'd love
songs
to.
we haven't
Count
even
me
gotten
in.
to.
Thank you guys so much. No, this is a blast. Count me in for any, all of it. I'm in for the max.
You have been so so amazingly gracious to us in the times that you've been here and done Songwriter. So, I mean, it's obviously you're one of our very favorites to have in the songwriters and have on these. So thank you for taking the time to do it. We appreciate it. He was so excited to do it. He actually went the opposite time and did it in England time instead of California time, but it's okay.
Yeah. Hey, better early than late. It's better, don't ask. Don't ask. I was, it was a calendar mishap.
No problem. And certainly congratulations to you and Lauren. It's very exciting.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
And like I said, I hope amongst hope that we can actually see you guys in September, because that would mean that most of this is behind us, but it would also be a great time together. So
amen to that. Likewise. Well, thank you all again.
And thanks to all the folks who joined us today. As always, thanks to our friends at Zoom for making it happen. Next Thursday at 5 o'clock, I have to concentrate on this for a minute. We will have Scooter Caruso with us next week on our happy hour Zoom, and he's written a lot of great songs, and not quite as entertaining as Chris, but he'll be fun. In fact,
awesome.
Was the first time that you came out here? Were you with Scooter?
Yeah, it was. Wasn't it me and Scooter, and it was Kalo, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was last year. I can't remember now. It was you and Ashley and Kayla were here last year, right? But then you came
Kalo's, back. Yes.
You came back, Scooter. Sorry, you came back with Scooter. I can't remember. Anyway.
Well, John. It was Scooter and John.
That's right.
Yeah. That's
awesome.
Yeah. Well, love you guys. Y'all stay safe, and I do appreciate y'all very much. Thanks again.
Take it easy. Thank you for being here. Larry, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Good night.